Kuzambo and welcome to our weekly news magazine program, Bhutan This Week. I'm Kipchu. These are our top stories from the past 7 days. Linkana Palace announces the birth of a royal baby girl. His Majesty the King confers a red scarf and grants promotion to RBA, RBP and RBG officers. It gives us immense joy to once again inform the nation that a healthy baby girl has been born to their Majesties, the Duke Gelpo and Gelchin. The princess was born last Saturday, coinciding with the 25th day of the 7th month of the female water rabbit year in Linkana Palace, Thimphu. The newborn princess is the third child and first daughter of their Majesties. Their Majesties have thanked the medical team of dedicated doctors and nurses and Jungtasa for all the prayers conducted and to everyone for their well wishes. BVS joins the nation in offering Tashidele to their Majesties and all Bhutanese on this happy occasion. Following the news of the birth of our royal baby girl, His Holiness the J. Khenpo, the Prime Minister, along with other ministers and senior government officials, offered prayers and butter lamps to celebrate the occasion at the Queenry of Tashchuzo on Saturday afternoon. Similar prayers and butter lamps are being offered across the country to celebrate and mark the auspicious royal childbirth. His Holiness the J. Khenpo administered the public empowerment of Buddha Amitabha at Tashchuzo in Thimphu on Monday. According to the central monastic body, this is the first time that the empowerment is being bestowed by His Holiness. The blessing was administered following the conclusion of the 3-day nationwide Kurim held to honor the birth of Her Royal Highness the Princess. The ceremony was attended by thousands of devotees. At the ceremony, His Holiness the J. Khenpo donated 10 million ngitam as fund for the improvement of the facilities for the monks living in retirement after the age of 65. His Holiness also granted a kasho to hand over the Foothill Medicinal Recreational Park in Sarpang to Gelifu Tromde. The 5-acre land was offered to His Holiness by an elderly couple. The government provided 60 million ngitam to develop the park.
Tasanalu data genge chachap de logivi gale de lanze tamiminu tamiminu tiki tunkindi tepchibera de tasagi charo zegobese.
Since the elderly monks do not have anyone looking after them, His Holiness granted a fund for their well-being.
Genge sugi tulu mangi shitsu de bum ja ji nadibe yu se shunila.
Similarly, the 5-acre land that was offered by an elderly couple to His Holiness was developed into a medicinal garden for the benefit of all Bhutanese. Though the country has many doctors and experts, traditional medicine can supplement the efforts made by the health professionals. Therefore, with the help and support rendered by the government, His Holiness has gifted the medicinal garden to the Gelfu Tromde.
Malu de mingi dumrachi zubebe yumidi de Gelifu Tromdelu sitebe na yiseshunila.
His Majesty the King conferred a red scarf to Karma Yuntin and granted promotions to 17 officers from the RBA, RBP and RBG on Tuesday. His Majesty also granted Tat to the Gup of Nahi Geok and appointed a new Zimpin Homa. Tashok Karma Yuntin is the head of the Office of Performance Management at His Majesty's Secretariat. Prior to his current appointment, he was the CEO of Duk Holding and Investments. His Majesty the King, as the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, granted promotions to 10 officers of the Royal Bhutan Army, 1 officer of the Royal Bodyguards, and 6 officers of the Royal Bhutan Police. The officers were promoted from the rank of Lieutenant Colonel to the rank of Colonel. Kaka, who was serving as the Chief Administrative Officer of His Majesty's Secretariat, was appointed Zimpin Woma. Prior to his deputation to His Majesty's Secretariat, he was working as Deputy Chief Planning Officer at the Gross National Happiness Commission. Kilegesi, the newly elected Gup of Nahi Geok in Wandifada, received Ta from His Majesty the King at the Tashchuzo today. Kilegesi was elected Gup of Nahi Geok in a by-election conducted on July 17 this year to fill a post vacated by the resignation of the incumbent Gup. In recognition of the importance of local government for the welfare of the people, His Majesty the King personally grants Ta to Gups. Kipchu, BVS News. Cervical cancer is a preventable cancer. However, cervical cancer is the most frequent cancer among women in the country. In a collective effort to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030, a two-day International Cancer Symposium was held in the capital recently. Her Majesty the Queen Mother Sringpem Wangchu graced the inaugural session last Sunday.
Addressing the gathering, Her Majesty the Queen Mother said that cervical cancer is a preventable disease. Her Majesty added that there should be a collective determination to ensure women live free of cervical cancer. In Bhutan, cervical cancer ranks as the fourth leading cause of death among women aged 15 to 44. The story is not different globally. According to the United Nations Fund for Population Activities, about 350,000 women died globally from cervical cancer in 2020. The annual number of new cervical cancer cases is projected to reach around 700,000 by 2030. As a response to these concerns, Bhutan made a commitment to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030, 4 years ago. To meet the commitment, the country adopted comprehensive strategies such as nationwide screening initiatives, HPV vaccinations, and treatment follow-ups.
This is historic because it was also during this period in 2020 Bhutan introduced HPV vaccine for boys, so adopting a gender neutral approach to vaccination. Bhutan already have 97% coverage of HPV vaccine for boys and girls, so which is probably one of the highest. We are the only middle income country in the world where we have introduced HPV vaccines for boys as well.
To achieve the goal of eliminating cervical cancer, the International Cancer Symposium brought together experts, healthcare professionals, policymakers, researchers, community leaders, and patients.
This is a disease that no women should suffer, and that not a single woman should die of. So that is our commitment. And by 2030, we are very serious. We will achieve this, and we will invite every year such symposium and more representation from the international world now to see how we can collectively work towards it.
The symposium highlighted the need for every individual to work together in achieving this goal, since it is not just women's disease.
We have to educate our people, not just women. The women get the disease, but men are equally involved. We are partners in this. And therefore, I think together we must look at how we can prevent this disease.
Bhutan's journey in combating cervical cancer and the ongoing efforts to eliminate it.
At the symposium, Her Majesty the Queen Mother launched a book titled Bhutan's Journey Towards Elimination of Cervical Cancer. The book highlights Bhutan's progress in its battle to eliminate cervical cancer. With additional information from Singedema, Devika Pradhan for BBS News.
The Attorney General Lungten Tupjur has been removed from office with immediate effect. According to a news release from the Prime Minister's office, the decision was based on the findings and recommendations of an independent committee constituted according to the Office of the Attorney General Act. The independent committee formed on 23rd of August to determine the involvement of the Attorney General in a drug-related case and subsequent reversal of judgment at High Court Bench 1. The report was submitted to Prime Minister Dr. Lote Tshering last Friday. According to the Prime Minister, institutions like the OAG are the bodies that serve as pillars of justice entrusted to safeguard the rule of law and uphold the rights of the citizens. The news release further quoted the Prime Minister saying any compromise on integrity undermines the noble purpose and therefore leaves no room for consideration. To enhance the well-being and financial security of Bhutanese workers employed in the Middle East, the Department of Employment and Entrepreneurship is taking various steps. One of the measures is to revise the minimum basic salary threshold for Bhutanese who will be recruited through the Overseas Employment Program in the Middle East from next year. The revision will increase the basic salary threshold to 40,000 ngitam. However, this does not mean a pay hike for the Bhutanese workers currently working in the Middle East.
This decision marks a raise from the previous minimum basic salary threshold of 30,000 yutam, which has been in effect since its revision in 2018. The move comes as a response to findings from the department's Monitoring Survey Report 2023 and feedback received from overseas employees. The department also said that the decision was made because of the global inflationary pressures witnessed in the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected the cost of living in various parts of the world, including the Middle Eastern countries. The Department of Employment and Entrepreneurship said that they communicated this directive to registered Bhutanese overseas employment agents, emphasizing the importance of ensuring the employers in the Middle Eastern countries to adhere to this revised salary threshold for Bhutanese workers. They said that the new minimum basic salary threshold will apply exclusively to vacancies received for employment in the Middle Eastern countries from January next year. The aim is to provide greater financial security and job satisfaction to Bhutanese citizens working abroad. According to data compiled by the department, nearly 7,000 Bhutanese overseas workers have been engaged in various occupations across the Middle Eastern countries until the fiscal year 2022-2023. Presently, approximately 2,500 Bhutanese workers are actively employed in countries such as Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. Karmasam Tenwangda for BBS News.
The project Dantak will outsource most of its projects to Bhutanese contractors for a period of 1 year. A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Construction Association of Bhutan and the project Dantak last Saturday. The president of the association said the MOU will help increase chances for small contractors to get more projects.
The MOU will allow Bhutanese contractors to execute infrastructure projects under Project Dantak in Bhutan. The MOU also establishes a proper framework to execute projects under Project Dantak. It also aims to facilitate mutual advantage in knowledge transfer, ensure adherence to standardized procedures, enhance occupational health and safety measures, and promote timely and quality execution of projects.
As per the MOU, the contractors will now, whether we are in the small category, medium or large, will be given the preference, and Dantak has agreed to outsource most of their project works to Bhutanese contractors. And this at this time of our economy, where we really need an uplift, is like a breath of fresh air for the contractors.
Today, Bhutan has more than 3,000 contractors. Contractors BBS talked to say the MOU presents more project opportunities for them.
So far, about 90% of road widening and renovation works were done by Dantak. If we start implementing as per what was signed in the MOU, contractors will also get Dantak project and not only rely on government projects. We will not face problem of not having work.
The Bhutanese government do give us work, but there are too many contractors, which is why the work available is insufficient. Now Dantak will give us this opportunity to work.
Project Dantak has agreed to outsource even small works like maintenance or construction of works that are small in magnitude and in terms of amount. They have agreed to outsource these works. So our chances as contractors for small contractors have increased manifold for them to acquire works.
As per the MOU, the agreement will be in effect for a year unless it is terminated by mutual agreement. The association also hosted the 5th Bhutan Construction Expo starting yesterday. 96 exhibitors comprising manufacturers, distributors and suppliers are showcasing their products. Sam Tendolkar, BBS News.
Drawing inspiration from the country's rich biodiversity, local textile designers and weavers will be producing Bhutanese textiles with designs of birds, butterflies and other animal species and plants that are native to Bhutan. It is a part of a larger project inspired by birds and butterflies of Bhutan that intends to showcase Bhutanese textiles in a unique way. The textiles will be put on display at a grand fashion show in Thimphu later this year. Towards this end, the designers and weavers from the East attended a 10-day training at Khoma in Lhunse, which ended recently.
It is for the first time that these local weavers in the East are weaving textiles inspired purely by Bhutanese wildlife and plant species. Collaborating with the designers, their designs include intricate patterns of the national butterfly, Lutlos Bhutan swallowtail, elephant, and other animals and plants, including some of the endangered species. And they are weaving the textiles using natural dye made using locally available materials.
I have only heard about natural dyeing and I have never tried it. This is a new experience for me. There are other weavers in Khoma who are unaware about natural dyeing, and from the things I learned in the training, I will be able to impart what I know. I now know how to incorporate various designs when I weave.
I have been weaving for a long time, but earlier we used to buy the dyes. But now we know that we can use the dyes that we find in our village, such as from onion and walnut covers. This will benefit us a lot as we do not have to buy it. I've seen many tourists come to Khoma, and this will be an opportunity to attract more tourists. When we incorporate designs inspired by the endangered species into our kiras, the tourists will be attracted to our pieces, which might help in marketing. We would not have known how to incorporate those designs in kiras had the designers not taught us. This was a new knowledge for us.
The designers came up with these creative design ideas. As part of the 10-day training, the designers and weavers also participated in a fashion show at Khoma.
My collection is called The Metamorphosis. I was initially inspired by the butterflies. I do love butterflies for their colors and also the intricate patterns. And just like the concept itself, I wanted to focus on the stages of changes. So the underlying meaning behind my collection will be the butterfly effect. So this is the collection, one of the collection I tried with the weavers in Khoma. And for the motif, this is the inspiration from the butterflies. So my muse is the swallowtail butterflies. Our theme is like Bhutan biodiversity. So I'm probably working on forest theme, which includes floral fantasy of Bhutan. Since I'm working on biodiversity, which is forest, I have included my designs in green fabric, which is base. So I have included sangishamu and cypress, willow tree.
The project is a collaboration between the Royal Textile Academy and the Department of Tourism. Global Environment Facilities Ecotourism Project of the Department of Tourism is funding the project. Following the training, the Inspired by Birds and Butterflies of Bhutan project is now preparing for the upcoming fashion show in November, which will be held at the Royal Textile Academy. It will feature a range of garments and textiles for both locals and tourists to enjoy. This is Tikil Hazum for BBS News.
And that is all we have in this week's edition of Bhutan This Week. Until next time, this is Kipchu saying goodbye.